So people have a lot of questions. What really happened with Snow White?
The moment word got out that Disney's Snow White reboot might be pulled from theaters, people couldn't believe it was real.
After a long wait, Disney's new Snow White finally came out last week, and to put it mildly, my friends, this has been a colossal mess.
Countless fans and skeptics rushed online, searching for any trace of official statements. Then Brett Cooper waltzed into the conversation, mocking Rachel Zegler's every move and turning what was already a heated debate into a full-blown online spectacle.
Has been absolutely horrifying. Like, I literally found myself feeling bad for them at times, that just shows you how terrible this has been. It is financially crumbling, financially failing. The reviews are genuinely horrible.
Allegedly, the film's first week box office results were so awful, theaters decided there was no point in keeping it on their screens. A Disney picture,
and new controversies surrounding the production, surrounding the actresses in the film are literally popping up every single day. They cannot outrun the curse.
Yanked in record time? That was the rumor. And Rachel Zegler, the face of this entire mess, found herself under fire in a way she never expected.
Is there one reason why this actually flopped? Was it because of politics and wokeness? Was this another woke flop? Or was it simply just a terrible film that nobody wanted from the beginning?
We're not talking about a slow fade out or a quiet acceptance that the film was bombing. No, rumor says it was pulled with the kind of urgency you see in damage control nightmares. People claim distributors practically sprinted to remove showtimes.
So I know that we all want to talk about this Snow White, but I know that there is also another Snow White that I think you guys want me to talk about.
Hoping to minimize the embarrassment, the number of unsold tickets was apparently humiliating. Online voices are jeering. Disney bit off more than they could chew. Meanwhile, the big question is,
unfortunately, the only thing I can really say is that is not my story to tell.
Did Rachel Zegler's own comments push audiences away so powerfully that the movie basically self-destructed on day one? It sounds ridiculous, but those are the accusations swirling around.
If you are somebody who, has a lot of publicity around you and your name's attached to a project, that means that you have a ton of control or a ton of intel, but usually that is not the case. Unless you are, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively with all of their films, apparently.
And what's coming next is the real shock factor, because all eyes turned on the star who was supposed to carry this film to glory. Rachel Zegler strutted onto the Hollywood, seen with major hype. She had the voice, the look.
You don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look.
Everything that seemed perfect for a modern fairy tale princess. But then the chatter started. She found herself in hot water for calling the classic Snow White story outdated. Fans erupted.
Kind of seems like maybe this path that I'm taking right now is the path that Rachel Zegler should have taken instead of just running her mouth for the last 3 years, which we are going to get into now.
Calling her remarks disrespectful to Disney's legacy. Suddenly, Zegler was no longer the beloved ingenue. Behind closed doors, rumors piled up.
This has been going on since 2022, since September of 2022. That is when this all first exploded.
People claimed she was spouting manipulative lines in interviews, painting herself as the champion for modern values while trampling on the traditional fan base. Her supporters insisted she was just being outspoken.
Rachel Zegler, her comments first exploded on the scene about Snow White back at the Disney D23 Expo. The clips went viral of her saying, Snow White doesn't need a man, she's not gonna fall for the prince.
That she wanted to update archaic ideas. Critics snapped back, no one asked for that. By the time filming wrapped, online forums were ablaze with distrust toward her. And ironically,
I've forgotten those clips. This is what I'm referring to.
No longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
The meltdown that would follow felt like destiny. Then Brett Cooper came swinging, fueled by a gut-level need to say, I told you so. She seized on Zegler's statements.
Maybe I could be president one day. I hate men. I just want to be president. That screams Disney princess. Oh my God, I'm literally getting enraged. Once again, I feel like I'm back in 2022.
Stuff about how the original Snow White was cringe or too archaic, and called it arrogant trash talk. And the rumor that the movie bombed hard, Cooper loved every second of it.
Yeah, the entire film's about a love story, because that's what the point of the film is, and I'm sorry that chivalry in a man pursuing you is now deemed as stalking.
She allegedly posted a scathing reaction video, showing snippets of Zegler's interviews, rolling her eyes, and mocking the star's empowering updates to the fairy tale. The roast didn't end there.
There is just so much to unpack here. Like, the most iconic Disney role ever. I feel like you should kind of have some sort of reverence for the original production, for what it meant.
Cooper labeled the fiasco as the ultimate taste of your own medicine. In her view, Zegler turned on the beloved classic, so fans turned on her. Suddenly, people rallied behind Brett Cooper's brazen approach, applauding her for daring to speak the truth.
She is not Caucasian. She is a Latina. She is half Colombian. And so people were like, why were you cast in the first place? We just had a black Little Mermaid. Now we're having a Latina Snow White, and she is literally called Snow White. This doesn't make sense. So that was happening.
But that wasn't the whole story, because behind the scenes, talk of an explosive meltdown was brewing.
Again, Rachel didn't even seem like she cared or liked the source material. I mean, that is just far from a graceful Disney princess-like promotion. It's far from what you would think Disney wanted.
Industry whispers suggest Rachel Zegler flipped out when the low ticket sales news dropped. Allegedly, she bombarded executives with furious calls, demanding to know who approved the marketing strategy. Some even claim she singled out her co-stars for overshadowing her press coverage. Random leaks mention secret voicemails, with Zegler's voice shaking in anger, shouting about incompetent people destroying her big break. The entire fiasco was loaded with drama. Production staff apparently dreaded every new phone notification in case it was another angry message from Zegler's camp. Online speculators jumped in, painting Zegler as someone who'd do anything to dodge accountability. She's always got an excuse, they said. It's never her fault. Of course, Zegler's team denies all of it. Yet, we're not done. The meltdown was only one piece of a darker puzzle that Disney itself had to address in a hurry. When the rumored box office figures started circulating, numbers so breathtakingly low that some were calling it the biggest faceplant of the year, Disney execs allegedly went into full-blown crisis mode. Insiders whisper about a frantic, closed-door meeting, where panicked higher-ups huddled around grim spreadsheets, trying to figure out how to spin the news so it wouldn't tarnish the studio's iconic reputation. The tension was so thick that, according to one unverified source, you could practically feel the sweat dripping off everyone's brows. Amid that chaos, the story goes that a bold decision was made. Pull Snow White from theaters before it's abysmal. Performance got plastered across every entertainment headline. By yanking the film so suddenly, Disney could let people assume that theaters themselves had slammed the brakes. After all, the corporate suits knew if they came out and admitted it was their call, it would look like a humiliating retreat. Instead, they left this murky narrative hanging in the air. Part ban, part rumor, part corporate dodge. Naturally, skeptics weren't buying it. They slammed Disney for orchestrating a covert cover-up, calling it a strategic attempt to sweep the entire fiasco under the rug. One alleged insider went as far as saying, they're hoping to bury this disaster so fast, you'll think you hallucinated the whole thing. The lack of any concrete explanation from Disney only fueled the gossip. They issued vague statements that danced around the obvious question. Why did a major studio apparently abandon its own big release after just one disastrous week? Meanwhile, Brett Cooper wasted no time seizing the narrative. She seized on every piece of speculation, gleefully telling her audience that Disney cowered to a so-called delusional lead actress. Whether you think Cooper's claims were overblown or right on target, one thing became crystal clear. Her commentary lit a fire under critics, turning the film's collapse into a full-throttle media circus. And of course, once the feeding frenzy began, it only took a single spark to send the entire meltdown roaring to life. Social media lit up like a festival. Overnight, both Snow White disaster and Zegler meltdown trended. Heated debates surfaced. Was Rachel Zegler just trying to champion a new perspective, or did she intentionally rile up Disney's loyal fans? Meanwhile, Brett Cooper's supporters claimed this was karma in real time, with quotes like, "That's what happens when you spit on a legacy." In some corners of the internet, fans ridiculed Zegler's attempts to modernize a story they felt needed no tweaking. Others lambasted Cooper's mockery, calling it petty and mean-spirited. But that's the world we live in, where lines are drawn so sharply that everything becomes a nuclear war of words. Now, though, the question remains, could the fiasco simply be the result of a flawed product, or does it reflect deeper personal failings from the star herself? Peeling back the layers, some ex-colleagues have hinted that Zegler's public charm might be just that, a show. Off camera, they claim, she's laser-focused on her own image, orchestrating narratives to remain the heroic figure in every storyline. A few people leaked vague accounts of manipulative behaviors, from rewriting entire scenes to serve her personal angle, to subtly undermining co-stars who overshadowed her. Commentators argue that Zegler's obsession with modernizing everything didn't come from a place of pure creativity, but from a need to flex moral superiority. They think she misjudged the public's love for Disney classics, belittling the foundation of the story that made her relevant in the first place. The meltdown. Rumors only add fuel to the theory that she bit off more than she could chew and ended up facing a harsh reality check. But the real kicker is how Brett Cooper exploited all of this so deftly, capturing the public's frustration and turning Zegler into a punchline. In the end, everything that could go wrong for Snow White apparently did. Bad marketing? A star, who openly criticized the beloved source material, and a wave of cynicism from day one. When the first few days' sales flopped, the meltdown had no brakes, culminating in that shocking rumor about the movie's abrupt disappearance from theaters. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper escalated her mockery, framing Rachel Zegler as the ultimate cautionary tale, a performer who tore down an icon and wound up tearing down her own reputation too. Whether you think Zegler was genuinely misguided or cunningly manipulative, the public outcry has created an unforgettable spectacle. Her polished exterior is now peppered with suspicion, leaving fans to wonder if they ever truly knew the actress behind the role. Was it all an act? Or did Zegler, in her quest for modern storytelling, simply overreach and get blindsided by the force of Disney's devoted audience? What's clear is this: the fiasco stands as a lesson that messing with cherished classics can spark a volcanic backlash, and that mocking your own fanbase is the surest way to push them away. Now, everyone is watching to see what fresh bombshell might land next. Will more evidence emerge proving Zegler's meltdown, or will the star find a last-minute way to reclaim her pedestal? Only time will tell, but one thing's certain: if Rachel Zegler thought she could talk her way out of this, Brett Cooper's relentless taunting just made that infinitely harder. And with that, we've reached a crossroads. The lines are drawn, and both sides are furious. Maybe the downfall is well-earned, or maybe it's an overblown reaction. Whichever side you're on, the Rachel Zegler-Brett Cooper showdown has taught the industry a brutal truth. The bigger the ego, the harder the fall. And if the final blow came from fans who wanted nothing but a respectful nod to the original Snow White, then perhaps we're witnessing the biggest fairy tale irony of all. When you spurn a beloved story, sometimes the story spurns you right back.